Hi, everybody. Welcome to the You Are Worthy Network. It seems like it's been a minute. I'm trying to even think, did I do an interview last week? I think I did one. I don't know why they've slowed down. I think it's just my busy, crazy life, but you don't care about any of that. You want to get to my guest, I know. But before we do, as our group continues to be blessed by the Lord and continues to grow, I realize that sometimes you might be watching your very first interview with us. And if that's the case with my awesome guest today, then I want you to know, what is this You Are Worthy Network? What's this all about? And I'll try. I am a preacher, so I'll try to be short with that answer. The You Are Worthy Network actually was created by me as opposition to my own stinking thinking. How about that? Yes, yours truly has struggled with worthiness for a number of years. And as I did deeper mindset work, I realized that it wasn't true. Problem was, I knew it here. It hadn't gotten here yet. And so as I started to bust through some of that limited thinking, see if you guys, any of you relate to this. Limited thinking, lack of self-love, definitely lack of self-worth, imposter syndrome, that whole family, right? I said, you know what? I gotta do something to help now. And so I created this as just a way to encourage you on your journey. A place where you could go in this dark, dark world where we turn on the news and everything's so negative. A place where you could go and listen to a 45 to 55-minute interview with successful people, but also real people that have overcome obstacles, real people that have gone through similar struggles that you might be going through right now. So I'm here to do my very best, as flawed as I am, to bring you a little hope and a little encouragement with 2 or 3 interviews a week. That's what we do here. And we try to have a lot of fun doing it. So that's what the You Are Worthy Network is, just in case you wondered. You're like, okay, he's done preaching now. All right, now I can tell you about my guests. And I always like to say my new friend, because as you meet people, you make new friends, right? So I'm going to tell you about, and I'm not mispronouncing this, by the way, when I say this. So just in case you're the critical type, don't be so quick. I'm saying it right. She told me so. Joni Woods is a human connection and cultural specialist with nearly 2 decades of experience supporting individuals, teams, and organizations in building emotionally intelligent leadership and healthy workplace relationships. Through coaching, leadership development, and speaking, she helps professionals strengthen confidence, set boundaries, navigate conflict, and foster cultures of trust, accountability, and authentic leadership using practical, real world frameworks. There was a season in her life where she felt slowly she was losing her sense of self through emotionally unhealthy relationships, constant criticism, and environments where she felt like she had to earn love instead of simply being worthy of it. I'm going to stop there. There's a little more, but that's a powerful way to end. I'm going to read that last paragraph again. There was a season in her life where she slowly lost her sense of self through emotionally unhealthy relationships, constant criticism, and environments where she felt like she had to earn love simply and simply being worthy of it. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. I want to go there so much so quick, but I'm not yet.
Okay.
Johnny, welcome to the You Are Worthy Network.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's so good to have you. Thank you for being with us today. I love to tell people as the group expands that there's going to be people watching our interview potentially all over the world, actually, which is pretty cool. Like, so tell folks
Awesome.
what corner of the world are you coming from today?
I am in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
So Ann Arbor, in case you don't know, and I don't know exactly because I haven't been there, but I know enough about Michigan. Ann Arbor is a suburb of Detroit, right? Or even further out than a
It,
suburb, really, right?
yeah, it's really further out. Our claim to fame is University of Michigan.
Yep.
So,
Go Big Blue, right?
yeah, go blue. Maize and blue.
Yeah.
Maize and blue.
Maize and Blue. Yep. I've never been to Ann Arbor, but it does sound cold.
It has been. Unfortunately, we got no spring whatsoever. We're going straight into the summer. It's just terrible.
Yeah, I hear you. So tell us about your family. Who do you do life with in Ann Arbor?
My two kids, I've got my son, he's 19, and my daughter is 15. So both freshmen. My son's freshman in college, and my daughter's a freshman in high school, and they're almost done with school. They're so excited.
Nice. Now, is your son close by for school?
Yeah, he's going to the local community college. He's getting all of his, basics before he heads to hopefully U of M to do nuclear engineering. I don't know where he
Oh,
got that.
wow.
Yeah, I know. I was like, okay, cool.
Okay, we know who the brilliant one is in the family, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's awesome. So when they're out of school and when they're not with their friends, because they're at that age where they're, they're gone a lot. What do you like to do for fun with them?
We're big kind of like sit and have the animals on us and watch TV, or we've got a pool, so we'll go out hopefully over the summer and float in the pool. But our big show that we just kind of like watch while I'm working and they're doing homework and we're just kind of hanging out is Amazing Race. We've been rewatching Amazing Race.
Cool.
And it's just we talk about it all the time. We're like, nope, couldn't do that. Yesterday we were watching an episode where they're eating scorpions. Like one person had to eat scorpions and one person had to have scorpions put on them. And I was like, nope, we're done. Not at all. And we talk about the fact that like pair us off, we just wouldn't none of us would figure it out. We would we wouldn't be able to do it. Amazing Race is not our race.
Sounds a little bit like Fear Factor. I'm like, yeah, no, not so
I
much.
know. They cross the lines there. I'm like, ugh, no, thank you.
No. I did catch something. So the pool, what is it open for like 30 days a year?
Pretty much.
Yeah. Just play it.
Yeah. You really just get to sit on the edge with your feet in it. That's it. It's too cold.
Woo. Yeah. Um, do you guys like to travel any?
We used to a lot when they were a little bit younger. Definitely loved getting in the car and going. But now we just don't. I've been traveling as I speak a lot, so the kids have been staying home. They just require more stay home time to get, especially my son. I mean, the amounts of homework he has, math all the time. I'm like, I don't know how you're ever going to get anything done. But so. I miss it. I miss traveling with them for sure.
No. No, that's cool. Um, let's do this. Let's have a little bit of fun, or that's my intention anyways, to have a little fun. Let's get in the time machine
Hmm.
and let's go back to your senior year in high school. And the
Okay.
reason I like to, and people that watch the interviews a lot, they're like, oh, Steve's going back to high school. Okay. But I like to do that because I like getting into the mind of 17 and 18-year-olds. My son just graduated high school 2 weeks ago. I understand the age a little bit. I was a senior once, many years ago.
Hmm.
Um, but the responses can be so varied. And so let's say you've got 2 weeks left in high school. You've got the cap, you've got the gown, maybe you had the class ring. You've got the dates certainly marked on your calendar, maybe on the wall, and you're marking the dates off, and you got the big day circled. Um, maybe maybe you've got the responsibility of purchasing the beach ball for the ceremony. It's gonna bounce that thing around during the announcing of the names. But where were you? Like, did you know what the summer was going to hold for you? Did you have a job? Did you know where you were going to go to school? Was it even going to be school? Was it something else? Couldn't wait to get out of there. Senioritis to the max. On a 10 scale, you senioritis at about a 14. Or at the other extreme of the spectrum, well, I guess I better get a job.
Mhm.
I'm not sure what I'm going to do, but I need to work. I'm going to miss this place. I'm sad to leave. Or was it somewhere in between? Where were you?
Well, actually, kind of what's funny about that is I grew up in Canada, so I'm Canadian, born and raised, and um, they do 13 years of school. And I refuse. I was like, no, I'm out. I'm out at the 12th year. Because if you want to go to university in Canada, you have to do the 13th year. And I was like, no, school is not for me. University is not for me. And I had already applied and got accepted into the pastoring program. And so I was like, everyone's just like, yeah, whatever. We're doing kind of graduation. Because I mean, they still all walked, they still got their diploma, but then they had to go back for this 13th year. So it was kind of a little weird that they did it that way. Um, but me, I was out and we were preparing for me to go. So we had bought my first car. I was accepted in the program. We bought my first car. I was driving myself to school every day and just like loving life. Life was going to be done. I had a part-time job lined up to work with at the post office with my parents, delivering packages. And yeah, you couldn't have paid me to stay another year. I was out.
Yeah, you were so out of there. Yeah, I just learned that a week or two interviewing somebody, that same thing about the 13 years. I'd never heard that before.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's
bizarre.
like I mean, I know it's a Canadian thing. I'm just wondering if it's like a British Commonwealth thing. I don't know.
I don't either. Fascinating. So, okay, so you worked helping your parents deliver packages. So tell us what the focus was for the next couple of years.
That was the Bible college. And it was a unique program and that's why I loved it so much because it was a hands-on program. It copied the Mormon faith. So, you see the Mormon kids right out of high school, they dedicate a year to the church and they go knocking door to door. And so this program started 93, I think. And there was a program that launched it, I think in 1990. And it's the whole premise of you dedicate a year to the church before you go off to college or the workforce wherever you're going to go. And so it's like 80% hands-on, and then it was like my first experience in online schooling because it was just the schooling that we did in the morning. We would have prayer times, all of those kind of things. And then the rest of the afternoon was spent doing various, like you either worked in the youth ministry or the various ministries within the church because it was a mega church. So it was like 5,000 people. And so they would have 60 of us. My year was 60 first year students. And then they had second and third year students and then a small staff. And I loved it. Absolutely loved it. They planned everything. The kickoff was you would go in and build a haunted house. And it was a Christian haunted house. And it had all of the one that we started at, it was downtown Rockford, Illinois, and it was 3 floors. And they had all the fun things like the maze that they'd walk through, and then they would have, someone chasing you with like a fake um chainsaw. And then they started doing real life scenes. So you would do groups of like 6 to 8, and then you'd stop and you'd watch like a drug overdose or you'd watch a suicide or, all of these kind of things. So it was kind of like Heaven's Gates, Hell's Flames, but in a haunted house situation. and it took you had to build it from scratch. So every wall we were building, that year we brought in a car. We had to bring a car into the building and it because it was part of a drunk scene. And then you would go down in the basement and you had to build hell, and then you had to build heaven, and just all of that. And you would work 18, 20 hours a day for 3 weeks building this thing. And then we would have thousands come through, just thousands. It was known statewide. They would come from Wisconsin all the way through middle of Illinois and to come do this, come be a part of this haunted house for 2 weeks, I think we would run it. It was crazy. And that was like the kick in the butt, like this is where you build your work ethic. This is where you dive in. This is where you don't get to sleep. You get up and you have to go do your prayer time in the morning and not fall asleep because you're walking around like like it was a Christian boot camp. And yeah, that was the first part of it. And then so much more. I mean, I could just keep talking about it forever. It was so much fun.
So how do you go? Well, that's not even the right question. So from Bible college, what was next? What did you do early on for your career?
Bible college, and then got married and became youth and well, became pastors, doing the same program just at a different church in Omaha, Nebraska. So my ex-husband and I, we did that for 6 years. We went to Omaha, Nebraska, and then we came back to Rockford, went on staff at the program that we met at. And then once we got fired from there, we went back down to his hometown and became youth and young adult pastors there and stayed there until he got fired again in 2013.
Okay. All right. Sounds like if we wanted to, we could talk about some trauma in
Oh
the
yeah.
ministry, which I know a lot about, but we probably won't go too far down that in those weeds today. But um, what would you say were the two biggest things you learned about leadership while you were in youth ministry?
Um, I learned a lot about myself. Because when I left home, I was 17. So my first year there, I celebrated my 18th birthday. And your first year, you're under people, but then your second year, you're a second year person. So then you've got these people that are coming in and you're in charge of them. I'm an 18, 19-year-old in charge of some 20-year-olds, people the same age. And there was definitely a dynamic in some of the people to just be really authoritative. Like we're going to hold you to this standard. When I was a first year student, I had someone come up to me and just chastise the hell out of me. And I was like, what are you talking about? And just tell me, like, not even asking the question, like asking, what are you thinking here? What, getting down to it. She just was like, you're in the wrong, you're in the wrong, you're in the wrong, you're this kind of type of person. And I was like, oh, okay. I guess I'm a terrible person. And I learned definitely you can't do that. There's that power dynamic where you get to use the Bible against someone to hold them to the standard that you deem is appropriate. And church trauma.
It's real.
It's real. And then the other thing that I learned is just how much I liked building a family. Because we would take the class that would, so as a second year and a third year, you would take a class and have a little small group with them. And I loved it. It was our little family. It was five of us, me and my partner. So they would have a male and a female, and then a group of five. They would call us mom and dad. And to this day, like if I ran into them, I know one of them would call me mom and dad. Like just
Wow.
it was just, and it was such a good for me being able to just take care of everyone, knowing I know you're exhausted because I did this last year and I'm going to take care of you. I know that you're hurting because I did this last year. I'm going to take care of you. I loved that. That to me, I felt like made such an impact and a positive one that has stayed through for years. Like I don't think that any of those students would think poorly of me or my partner because we just really we were a family. We were a family.
Well, and you don't have to have that title.
Hmm.
That's who you are.
Yeah.
That's part of your character. That's who your heart is. That's why you still do it, right?
Yeah.
Um,
100%.
and I'm trusting that even though you learn some valuable things about leadership, especially about yourself, that here in 2026, if you had a choice, which you do, you would not go back to that. Would that be correct?
Right. I would not.
So with that said, tell us, and I know there'll be gaps because we only have so much time, but tell us how you went from a couple of youth ministry positions to entrepreneur waters, or was there a significant bridge in between there somewhere? Feel
Mhm.
free to tell us that story. Was there a straddling of two different things for a while, or did you have to leap full on entrepreneur at some point?
There was definitely straddling. After my divorce, I started to work in a hospital, and because I couldn't be a pastor anymore, so I wanted to still help people. And because of that, I got to be known as the hospital therapist because I worked the midnight shift. So people would come and talk to me and share their problems and, and it was another way of just, embodying everything that I've spent my entire life doing as a youth and young adult pastor was taking care of people. And so I did that. And then I moved into the restaurant industry because I needed quick money, lots of good money. And so I was a great bartender because everyone wanted to sit and talk. They wanted to gab and tell me all their problems. And doing all of those things, I recognize that is just always going to be a part of who I am. It's just something that I love to do. And so after 2020, after COVID, my ex-husband passed away. And so I moved up to Ann Arbor to be closer to my family in Canada. And once I got the kids settled and I found another restaurant industry job, I was like, all right, well, what am I going to do with my life? And that's where, I didn't want to be in the restaurant industry for the rest of my life. That has apparently since changed. But I wanted to make an impact. And so I went into coaching. I got my coaching certificate and wanted to pursue relationship and communication coaching. And I specifically using the book Effective Nonviolent Communication by Rosenberg. I love that because, we're so used to cancel culture. We're so used to like, oh, delete, block, all this kind of stuff instead of talking it through. And we're teaching such horrible communication and relationship skills to the younger generation because they're like, well, why don't you just block them? Because you can't go through life like that. You have to, one, it teaches you so much about yourself and what you need to be doing as someone trying to build relationships, or you're going to end up lonely. And so I started that, but everyone was like, oh, so you're a therapist for couples. And I was like, no. No. By the time, they talked to me, I was like, you actually need therapy. You want to go see someone. Like, I should be the person that starts at the beginning of the relationship. Like, oh, you guys are still learning each other. You're still trying to figure out how to communicate when you're frustrated and how not to take it personally because you're learning someone completely new. So that's where I was like, okay, I need to figure something else out. And so I moved into the corporate space. And because I have spent so much time in the restaurant industry, I'm up at like 10 years now in the restaurant industry. I I started to recognize just the big opportunities that we have in the restaurant industry to help mold our future workers. Because I was going into the corporate spaces, and statistically, I think the statistic back then when I started 4 years ago was every 4 years people were rotating out and they were starting new jobs. So you don't have longevity. You've got these people who are they don't know how to work through issues with coworkers, issues with bosses, how to set boundaries. All of the emotional skills, emotional intelligence skills that are considered soft skills are so important. And some of that is because when these students start in their very first job, they start in the restaurant industry, which sees an 80% turnover rate, and they're learning horrible skills from there. They've got chefs yelling at them, they've got guests yelling at them, and how to maneuver that in a way that doesn't tear you down is really huge. Essentially, you have to understand that yes, I can set boundaries because how you're talking to me doesn't isn't a reflection of who I am as a person. Sorry, that was a lot.
Well, no, this is really good. Give us an example, because there has to be a sweet spot in that. Certainly some relationships, such as husband wife. Obviously, if you don't want it to end in catastrophe, then you have to learn communication skills. My wife and I had to do that when we were in some serious marriage trouble 25 years ago,
Mm,
and we learned the listener speaker technique, which we help couples with all the time now, and it's just an invaluable tool, right? Um, but you can also have relationships, say friends, that have a history together. Maybe there's been some, if it's been a friendship of any longevity, there's going to be bumps in the road, maybe some times of mistrust, where you've had to apply forgiveness to the situation for sure.
mhm,
I always teach that forgiveness and trust are entirely two different things.
mhm,
Like if somebody did something to my kids, as horrific as it may be, whatever the situation is, excuse me, I do have to forgive because that's a command from God, right? and,
mhm.
and how much I've been forgiven of. But I wouldn't put my kids back in that same environment either. See, there's the trust part. And then there's reconciliation, which always takes two parties.
Yeah.
So I know this is a little vague what I'm asking, but it sounds like you're helping people solve their communication issues through effective communication. But how often do you have to tell them, hey, this has become a pattern. This is unhealthy, and you need to set a new boundary here, whatever you think that should be for your situation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so it definitely makes sense. How I got into it, and this is why where you were going with it, I definitely understand. I got into it because in 2020, my ex-husband passed away. Suddenly, within 72 hours, he was gone. And we had had such a terrible co-parenting relationship that his family really took up the banner of Joni is terrible. She's the worst person ever. She's
Mm.
caused all of this drama. And the morning that he passed, I sent text messages to his parents and then to his brother, and I said, "I'm so sorry for your loss. You are more than welcome to come to my home and see the kids," because I had picked up the kids. They didn't even know that he was sick. They didn't have a great relationship with their son. So they're in the midst of grieving. I never heard from them. They never showed up. And I it took 2 weeks before they really even saw the kids because it was so sudden. They had to do funeral arrangements, and within that time, the kids are wondering. They were young, and they're like, what did we do wrong? And I was like, ugh, that was my
Mm.
fault. Because I didn't learn how to co-parent, nobody told me. Like, I just assumed divorce, we were done. And I was okay with that because, we had spent 15 years fighting, and I was like, I don't want to fight with you anymore. That's what attorneys are for. I didn't realize the importance of building a positive co-parenting relationship, not only with my ex, but also with his family. Like we just everything dropped. I'd been with them, they were my family for 15 years, and I stopped talking to them. They stopped talking to me. There was no relationship. And the people who paid the price were my kids, and they paid the price during their greatest time of need. They just lost their father. So I realized that I was like, well, I don't want anyone to ever go through that again. I don't want anyone to say, not understand the importance of how to fix those things. And then so it was a rough go. They wouldn't let me go to the funeral. Legal stuff started to happen, and it took about he passed at the end of August. We went to court the 1st of January, like the first week of January. And I mean, they were fighting me and I was moving. Like I was like, I'm gone. And so we've got to figure this out. But they wouldn't talk to me. And finally we're in court in the morning of, and their attorney is finally convincing them, listen, you're not going to get what you're looking for. She's leaving. She's taking the kids with her. And they sat in the court and they just kind of were like, can we, spend some time with the kids? I'm like, yes. 100%. Yes, I want them to have a relationship with you guys. You're their grandparents and they are the last part of your son. So yes, please. I want them to spend time with their cousins. I want them to go to the family reunions. I want them to have Christmas with you. And so because of that, we have restored that relationship. We have reconciled. It's still a little awkward sometimes, going to dinner with them. I'm like, cool, they're gonna come visit us, and I'm like, cool. Um, but it's for my kids, and they needed to have that relationship restored so that they get to decide the kind of relationship that they want to have with them. And I think that that's really huge because, they get to set boundaries where I'm not setting boundaries for them. They get to
Hmm.
do that. They get to see, okay, this works for me. They're still very much who they are. And so my kids are growing up and they get to decide, oh, I'm gonna not come to this or I'll go to this or, I'll talk about this or I won't talk about this. That's the beauty of them growing up and they should be allowed to make that decision. I shouldn't be the one making it for them. And yeah, so that's where all of that started for me. And where I take it into the corporate space is, there's one company that I worked with. It was all the managers. And the owners brought me in and they said, well, we don't want to see people who have been here for 20 years leave. And I just kind of looked at them and I was like, I can't promise that they're going to stay. But what I can promise is they're not going to leave angry and bitter and talk about you poorly. They're
Hmm.
going to be able to decide this place isn't for me because I've communicated my needs. Those needs don't line up with your needs or your wants, and therefore I'm going to find a job that suits me better. And it did. One guy ended up retiring. He had been fighting it the whole time, and he wanted to just be like, "Oh, I quit." And instead of just being like, you know what? I'm actually at a place in my life where I'm ready to retire." And then one woman was having constant like butting heads with someone else and after communication and talking it through just realized that it wasn't her because she spent a lot of time being told it was her, she was the problem. And once she realized I'm actually not the problem and I get to set a boundary on how I'm being talked to, all of those kind of things, she ended up finding another job. And so it was, it's taking the heat. And that's the thing that I love about that book, Effective Nonviolent Communication, is it's taking the heat out of the conversation and just seeing it clearly because we get so worked up and we dig our heels in when we're worked up. And you need to be able to take a step back and just be like, okay, I can see, I wave the right white flag, that kind of thing. Or you recognize, well, I am part of the problem and I need to make adjustments.
I love that. So I want to make sure I'm clear so that our viewers are clear. So are you still doing restaurant work at all? Okay.
Yeah. So I
So,
moved back into the restaurant space. I'm a manager there.
okay. So restaurant management, some corporate training,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, and now I understand one of your heart's desires is to do more public speaking, which you started doing. Tell
Yes.
us a little bit about that.
I love it. So as I started understanding communication in the corporate space and then in the restaurant space, how to build a culture meant it starts at the first conversation in recruitment. So I do recruiting, I do the hiring, I do the onboarding. And, as much as we talk about the employees that are like, oh, they're flaky, part of me is asking the question, well, did you catfish your employees to begin with? Did you promise a culture that you're not providing? And did you expect them to come in? Like you have to show up just as much as they are trying to show up. And so that's on the corporate space I'm talking about. I talk about recruitment and how to recruit from the heart, how to bring authenticity to it, and how to make sure that you show up the way that you promised them you would. Everyone's applying, and people don't really like, that the application process because, you having to go through all of them and talk to people, but that's the way you find it, the right person. You have to put in the work and you have to be excited about it. And don't sell them on something that you're not providing. Don't try and sell them on a culture that is toxic and you're like, no, we've got these values on our wall, but do you live by them? You can have values, but if you don't live by them, what's the point? And so that's what I speak on in the corporate space, HR space. What I speak on in the personal space is just talking about relationships, communication, awareness, understanding that people bring baggage to every conversation, and instead of assuming that they know themselves enough, they don't.
Yeah, I'm amazed because I know how demanding restaurant management work can be. I'm happy for you that you're able to get out and speak. And I knew this about you a little bit because we talked before, but your face lit up when we started talking about public speaking.
Yeah.
So tell us what your goal is with that. I'm assuming you'd like to do that more and more in the next couple of years.
Yes, I definitely want to do that. I also, I mean, I stay in the restaurant because I want to be aware of the trends that are happening. What's it like working with Gen Z? Because what's the point of public speaking if I'm out of date, And so I love talking about it because I bring story. I'm a big storyteller. Every time I talk about that. But I also really want to talk about church hurt. That's the big thing I want to talk about. Like, I want to be able to go into churches and have the conversation from day one instead of when it's after it's already happened and you're trying, again, that those feelings are so real and you're in so much pain, having to go through it if we already prepped that, like, listen, sometimes this stuff happens and how do we deal with it? How do we take it and make it not hurt so much? So yeah, I just want to speak about everything. Everything.
So if you had, let's say you were blessed with a day that was totally, you could do what you wanted to do with it. The kids' needs were met. Um, you had no deadlines, no commitments. You could wake up in the morning. Walk us through what you would do for you personally, and then who would you serve that day?
Who would I serve? Oh.
Well, when I say that, when I say serve, um, like in the areas that maybe you're already doing it. For example, maybe you wake up and you've got this routine that you don't normally get to do, and because it's the day's totally yours, you get to do it. But maybe it's flying to a certain city to give a certain keynote. Maybe that's your way of serving this particular day. This day is your ideal day. It can be whatever you want it to be.
I don't think I could get enough stuff done in my ideal day. Because
We only given you one.
I know. I love to sleep in. I was one of, my raising my kids, I was able to get my kids to sleep until like 10 o'clock every morning when they
Ooh,
were babies.
amazing.
I know. I love sleeping in. So there goes half my day. I wouldn't be able to do anything. I would love to sleep in, then go get brunch, and then yeah, I would love to get brunch with my kids, then do some writing. I do a lot of writing for my blog, writing my book because I love speaking, but I also love putting stuff out there that's so genuine and authentic that people don't have to they don't have to share with me. They just see themselves through what I've gone through. So I would do that, and then I'd probably hop on a train. I love trains.
Ooh.
It's my new thing. It's so much fun. Hop on a train and head somewhere. Currently, right now, the fun thing that I've been doing, and I did this last week in DC, was I hopped on a train and went to Disrupt HR, and it's a whole thing that goes on, and it's a 5 minute speak session, and I got to talk about psychological safety, and it was so much fun, and the importance of psychological safety versus fear management. And it's all about the leader and how to deal with someone who thinks that they're being psychologically safe, but they're just leading through fear. And I would do that, and then I would go get dinner, and then have a glass of wine, and then take a walk for a little bit, and then go back to the hotel, lay in bed, and binge watch a TV show.
It all flowed, right?
I know, yeah.
So when are you going to make that day happen?
Oh, I don't know. We'll see.
See, we're gonna have to develop some action steps to get you
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
there.
Fair enough.
Did I catch in that flow of dialogue that you're writing your first book?
No, I've already written my first book. Written, published, it is out on Amazon. You can get it anytime.
Tell us about it.
It's called Burn, Blocked, and Better Than Ever. I was writing it during my divorce. So 2016 through 2017. When I was working at the hospital, I was going through all of like the custody issues, the court system. I filed for divorce in January, and we didn't finalize our divorce until November. So my ex-husband really drug it out. And so just writing about that experience, writing about the church hurt that was going on, because obviously, they completely abandoned me during that season, one of the hardest seasons that you go through.
Hmm.
And then I was dating. It was the most surreal experience of my entire life, because I got married when I was 20 years old. So my entire 20s and half of my 30s were gone. And so you're dating in 2016, and it's apps and it's crazy. And I just learned so much about myself, but then so much about other people. I had no idea just how many people stay, one, in relationships that are just tearing them apart, that make them feel unworthy, that have them questioning their self, and they do it for their kids, they do it because they're scared. I get it. I was there. And so I was just writing about all of those experiences. And it's technically a memoir, but why I wrote it the way that I wrote it was because I wanted people to see themselves through my story, or the stories of the other people that I was telling in there, and then see how I got out of it. Because that's the only way we can really help people, is by sharing our experiences. Like, I can talk to you till I'm blue in the face about, well, you should do this. And then if I just tell you my story, maybe you'll find your way through your story. So, yeah. So it's already published. My second book is about halfway done, but it's through the next couple of years after that.
All right, all right. So burned, blocked, and better than ever, A
Yeah.
Raw Journey of Healing.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it now. It's less than a year old, and just for you guys that it's got your interest peaked, all her reviews are 5 stars.
Yay.
That's awesome. Johnny would love for you to once we have everything up and the show notes included, if you go into the comments section and drop the link of your book. I could do it, but I think it's more effective if you do it.
Okay.
If you don't mind doing that, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I'd love to. 100%.
So, what's next besides the book that you're working on for the next couple of years?
The book, more speaking, I just want to make a difference in the world. And so I keep hustling, keep trying, and I want my kids to see what it's like to try and build something. And so
Mhm.
I want to build that and help as many companies as possible. My goal isn't to stay in one company forever. My goal is to go in, help fix culture, train people properly, and then go out and do it again. Like that's just all I want to do. I want to do that for the rest of my life is just go in, fix things up, and go out.
No, well, you're making a difference already, and I'm sure your kids are seeing that. And I heard what you were saying earlier about the communication and how that impacted the kids. I also know that kids we can think we messed them up, but they have a lot of forgiveness and a lot of grace for mom and dad. I'm sure
Yeah,
you've experienced that too.
yeah, they're good. They get me through the day, that's for sure.
So, what last words of encouragement would you leave our viewers with today? Maybe that maybe they feel stuck. For that person that feels stuck, maybe they've been through some trauma. Maybe they're praying about the next thing in life. Maybe they're trying to strive for the person they want to be.
Mhm.
What would your words of encouragement be to them while they're in that what they think is stuck season?
I would say you always look at, and it's so cliche, but it's so true. You got to look at your blessings because being stuck is not necessarily just a mindset thing. It really, you have to believe in yourself first because no one's going to come and not necessarily save you, but they're not going to say the things that you need to hear that you know that you need to hear. So say them to yourself. Literally, say them to yourself every day. Little mindfulness moments, just I am worthy. I am good. You it's not wrong to believe that you have something to offer. It's not. I was told my entire life, well, you don't want to be too prideful, but we took it to the opposite extreme and
Yeah,
we started
yeah,
to hurt ourselves with it.
yeah.
And, the thing that is so great is we were beautifully and wonderfully made. And I talked about that a couple weeks ago. I was like, the thing, the Bible verse says specifically, I praise you because I was beautifully and wonderfully made. And so I get to say that over and over to myself. I was beautifully and wonderfully made. And I get to believe in that beauty and see that beauty touch people. And that's okay. That is okay. That does not make me prideful. That does not make me arrogant. That makes me who I was made to be.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I could go there for a long time, and I'm not. That's so good. And I don't know if anybody's ever told you this specifically, but I'm going to tell you, Johnny, that God delights in you.
Thanks.
God delights in you. And I want to thank you for being candid, vulnerable, and sharing your obvious wisdom and experiences with us because they are going to help a lot of people. They've already been helping a lot of people, and they're going to help a lot more as God gives you more opportunities, more microphones, different stages. Thank you for sharing all of that with us the last little bit, and continued blessings and success on your journey.
Thank you.
Guys, I hope you heard yet again. You heard in Johnny's story, there was a really rough patch there. And that rough patch, it wasn't a week or two. We didn't get the total span, but it sounded like it was a few years.
Mm,
And that involved divorce, that involved church hurt, that involved the eventual passing, even though he was her ex-husband when he passed. Obvious, there's a lot of grieving that still happens with that. And then the children's dad, as she mentioned in the interview. But through it all, here's what I always want you guys to hang on to. Do you hear all that God's doing with her now? He's not done with her story yet. He's not done with your story yet. As hard as it was to go through, those were just a couple of chapters, significant chapters, but those were a couple of chapters in Johnny's book of life. So I want to encourage you today as we sign off. Whatever you're going through right now, it's a chapter. You will get through it. And don't just white knuckle your way through it. Grow from it, learn from it. Because I promise you, God will put you in a position, if you get the lesson, He will put you in a position to help somebody that's going through it just like you are now.
mhm.
And you're worthy of love, respect, and success. I appreciate each one of you. Till next time, God bless.